World War III update, brought to you by Gazoo. You going to give the World War III update, Gazoo? Eh? You going to do the... No, he's going to say, look at my butt. Look at my butt. Eh? All right, so I don't have very much for you today. Just got a Gazoo here. I got some scars from fighting. Yeah, I'm supposed to be fighting. Yeah, you lick my shirt. Ew, that's gross. Cat tongues are so gross. All right, so watch your head. Watch your head. Look out. I'm going to smash you. Look out. Watch your head. All right, so let's get into this. Get my papers. Very rainy, blustery day today. Okay, so I guess we'll start off with what's going on at the FBI right now. Right now, they're kind of in a bit of a revolt, really trying to go after Comey or whatever, the director, the one that basically let criminal Hillary Clinton walk free, basically. Saying that, well, yes, she did wrongdoing, but it wasn't really her fault, whatever. Again, go steal a chocolate bar, and you spend like 5 years in jail for stealing a chocolate bar. So that's pretty much, again, on the hellhound front, I guess you would call it. That's starting to brew the first wave of hellhounds of people that they're sick and tired. They made the FBI a laughing stock, so they're now starting to turn on their own system. And the hellhounds will always go after the system. And you're seeing FBI agents that want it. So watch for those FBI agents dropping dead, because, of course, for me, it's for him to run defense for Hillary Clinton, it's because they have something on him. So a lot of these bureaucrats, they don't get into power unless you can manipulate them, right? So anyway, that's just something to keep in mind. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. That said, if you haven't caught this one, over there in the Philippines, this guy Duterte, Rodrigo Duterte there, he's quite the character. He's a bit of a dictator. He's killed something like 3,000 drug cartels by now. Again, what classifies as a drug cartel, I don't know. Is it just some guy shooting up heroin on the street? I don't know. Hey, you're a drug cartel. Put him against the wall, shoot him. That type of thing. Basically a zero tolerance stance there. And of course, there's not much. I think what's happening is because the Philippines, the drug trade is really, around the world, is facilitated big time by the CIA and stuff like that. It funds a lot of projects. And I think that's who he's probably killing, is like U.S. agents and handlers and the manufacturing of it. So that's the United States is not going to be happy with that. But he did the most insane thing a man could possibly do. He has cojones the size of elephants. I got to say this. But basically, the Philippines is just ditched the United States. He finally came out and said it in a press conference. He's going to be basically working with China and Russia, and he's suspending basically ties with the United States. How much, I don't know. How fast, I don't know. But it's there. And it's very clearly he's anti-U.S. That type of thing. So Philippines is about to get probably a dose of democracy, JDAMs, and some regime change in the name of women and children and democracy there. So that is a big, big player in the South China Sea, because what's going to happen there is if a war breaks out, there's now an ally that might side or work with or stay neutral with China. So with that said, that makes it harder to go to war. Very hard to go. And I think the Philippines just doesn't want war. I think that's just self-preservation kicking in. They're not stupid. The guy's clearly not stupid. He's mouthy, but he's not. I like the guy, actually. Not that I'd ever want to live under his rule, but like as a character, it's kind of like, oh my God, he's like Bizarro World. But he says the darndest things, right? He curses a bomb up and down like crazy. The colorful character that he is. But the big one is that he's basically saying that no, we're done after that U.S. military drill. We're done. We don't want F-16s. We don't want to provoke China. That's what he's basically saying. Is we don't want to go to a war with China. He's talking about cooperation with China. Will we see that? It's hard to say. I do believe there will be a color revolution. The United States will definitely. You can already see some light propaganda of getting ready for regime change in the Philippines. So like Venezuela, they'll destabilize the Philippines. So they're about to get a really shit kicking from the U.S. It's all going to be covert stuff like normal, but you get the idea. But that said, if they start working with China, once you get the U.S. state actors out of there, and this guy, I mean, if there's a George Soros group there, they're going to get kicked out or shot. I think he'll probably just shoot them. They won't put up with anything. Put up with that. Which, in a way, like if you want to save your country, you have to get rid of these systems. It's not a matter of political banter. You have to just expel them from your country. It's kind of like how the Russians still have a arrest warrant for Rothschilds and George Soros and stuff like that. But until those people step into the country, you don't get them. That said, the systems, Russia basically banned, George Soros NGO groups in there. That's why they can't get the color revolutions going over as easy as they did in Ukraine and stuff like that. Now, this is something that's kind of interesting. Somebody else pulled this up, and then the girl made a really good point on this. She goes, Hillary Clinton, okay, again, these world elites, they're so psychopathic, they don't even realize what they say half the time. And they don't even realize when they're admitting criminality and stuff like that. Or, more importantly, they don't even realize when they're basically showing their hand to the world and putting national security pretty much at risk. Now, this, you might take something out of it, you might not. But anyway, if this doesn't make you sleep uneasy at night, I don't know what will. But during the debate, I don't know if anybody caught it, and I caught it too, was Hillary Clinton was talking about the nuclear launch codes and that it takes 4 minutes from the call to launch the nukes. 4 minutes. So nuclear war can start within 4 minutes. The 4-minute warning. Well, there is no warning. 4 minutes to nuclear war. That's pretty much it. Like you can't make it any simpler than that. So that means when she's president, I think it's pretty much a done deal. It's just the indications are so they're looking ways to steal the votes, to manipulate the votes. The media's on her side. The banks are definitely on her side. That's what it's all really for. All that stuff. But 4 minutes. She could have us into a thermonuclear war in 4 minutes. Now, that's any president. Now, that said, what's the checks and balances between Clinton and that 4 minutes? That's what terrifies me. When she gets in power, trust me, there will be a military purge like you will not believe. Any general that was right-wing at all, or maybe not right-wing, but constitutionalist, or loved the country is gone. She needs yes men there, and women. But the thing is that, nobody's going to stand in her way. Nobody. So it means she is basically going to be untethered on the nuclear button. She is going to be at her whim of her choosing to launch nukes. I have a feeling within 3 years Hillary Clinton will launch nukes. Within 3 years. If she can make it that far. I think she might get taken out before that. But it's hard to say. It depends on what happens in the States. You will have a civil race war in the States. You will have probably a military coup by 2017 when Hillary Clinton wins. So somewhere in 2017, she could be taken out by military. I think that comes on the backs of probably a military purge, I would imagine. And then, of course, just the populace is going to be so outraged that, she's not going to be able to go anywhere in public without people shooting at her. That's my hunch anyway. I'm not saying, I'm not calling for it, but I'm just like, you don't think it's radical enough now. I mean, I think we're going to see things that, completely unbelievable and unpredicted. But anyway, we also know about RBC Bank, RCBS, or whatever bank it is, basically, or blocked Russia's account in the UK for RT, and all the Russian accounts. So they're basically sanctions, is what it is. This comes on the heels of the Russians sending their, I can't even pronounce the name anyway, their one aircraft carrier they have fully loaded with Su-33s, basically flying down to Syria, sailing down to Syria. And right now, apparently, people from the UK have been telling me that the fear porn is like the Russians are coming, the Russians are coming. Basically, a bunch of Navy ships going around. They got to go through the English Channel and stuff like that. And they're being shadowed by British warships, which is dangerous enough. That type of thing. Now, also, these Su-33s are doing training exercises. So that means you got Russian fighter jets going off the deck and patrolling and stuff like that. Now, through the English Channel, they will not be allowed to do that, but in international waters, they can and they do. So this is, again, it's people on edge, but you're seeing, again, this military buildup, the flotilla of ships going down to Syria. Again, they're going to be in that region in case something happens, so there's a big buildup there. Next to that, the CIA is still getting ready for that Joe Biden's cyber war against Russia. The thing about that is, again, when you listen to Joe Biden, again, he's another one of these idiots that just blurt in. He's like a 2-year-old child. He just blurts out whatever. But he's basically, like Donald Trump said, why do you guys got to keep announcing what you're going to do to your opponent? You know what I mean? Like, what about the element of surprise? And he goes, same with the top military brass in the United States. They're saying, we keep warning these guys we're going to attack them before we attack them, so when we go to attack them, they're never there. We keep announcing to ISIS that we're going to bomb them in 6 weeks. That type of thing. Give them lots of time to move around and get out of there. Russia just hits them. They just bomb them. Consequences be damned. They just hit them. That type of thing. Element of surprise. So yeah, Trump's like, well, why do you keep announcing? You keep telling the enemy what we're going to do. That type of thing. So Joe Biden out there is saying, yeah, we're going to send a signal to Russia. It's being sent. It'll be done at the time of our choosing. And when the reporter asked, well, will the citizens know about it? He goes, hope not. And hope not, I mean, just the way he says hope not, I'm thinking what he's saying is that it could lead us to war. Just the way he says hope not. It's not like, hope not, oh, well, we don't want them to catch it, because they're telling you what they're doing. That's one thing about these world elites. They have to tell you what they're doing. That would say, well, we told you about it. They're complete psychos, right? But the thing is that hope not really does kind of raise some concern anyway. Of course, Assange not doing very well over there, and it looks like John Kerry may have had a hand, no conclusive evidence, but of the Ecuadorian basically putting pressure on Ecuador to stop Assange from being able to use the internet. That type of thing. So it's censorship, right? The Podesta emails are really damaging to the Clintons and everything like that. They're super, super damaging. There was another, over there in Syria, there was another bombing raid done by the Belgian Air Force. Why is Belgium in there? Well, France is in there, Belgium's in there, right? They are linked with the system as much as anybody else, so that's why they're in there. Yeah, so that's going on. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Again, I still say the Russians are going to shoot down, probably most likely American airplanes, to put us on the brink, to call the bluff of the United States. When they're going to do this, I don't know. But something I didn't know, and this goes back to Belgium being in there, is Syria was a French colony up till 1959, and it no longer is. And that's one of the things why they're questioning, why is France in there? Why is... Now, France say, yeah, well, we have had all these terrorist attacks and they're coming from Syria. Well, why don't you just close your borders? Right now that you got these migrants rioting all over France, I mean, and I guess as the winter comes in too, it's going to get rough, and it's amazing what's happening in France. I think France is a bit lost right now. It's been taken pretty much without a shot, but it's pretty much as taken by jihadists as Syria is. Only the difference is the Syrian jihadists or the U.S. proxy army and Israeli proxy army is armed. That's, I think, about the only difference. So at some point, the French are either going to have to expel these people or whatever. There will be civil war in France, there's no doubt about that, over these migrants. It's about to get worse. There's no doubt about that. So that said, these white helmets, again, it looks like these are just al-Nusra guys or ISIS guys pretty much and again, funded by George Soros and a whole bunch of other, the State Department and all that stuff. And the UK, and there's a whole bunch, there's like 40 different countries. The Anglo-American Empire is basically funding ISIS. And these white helmet guys, the humanitarians out there, two white helmet guys hold the guy, the other guy shoots him, and then they put him on the ground, then they roll the camera and go pick him up as if they're helping him. Like, if you haven't seen that video, it's so morbid. It's like, really? There's like a video of a video kind of thing. It's like, yeah, this is how we do it. Yeah, we shoot the guy, and then we go to help him. It's like, and the civilians that are complaining about the white helmets, that they're pretty genocidal, is what it is. This one is in the Donbass area. It looks like NATO instructors were shot down in a helicopter, or NATO shot down instructors in a helicopter. I'm still kind of figuring out what they were trying to say on this one, but it looks like these instructors in the Donbass were shot down, which, again, we're seeing top officials starting to get, and intelligence guys starting to get killed now. That's when the war is ramping up. When it's just civilians killing civilians, it's bad, but it's like, that's not the escalation. The escalation is when the intelligence guys get shot down. Now, this guy that they refer to, they call him Motorola, got killed last week or whatever. I don't know much about him, but apparently the Russians are very upset that this guy got killed by the Ukrainian military. But it looks like it's NATO that shot down these instructors in the Donbass. So, NATO, again, Ukraine is not a part of NATO. Why are they even in there? But again, we look at, yes, it was Victoria Nuland and George Soros, and it's Obama and Clinton's basically regime, so to speak, and Kerry and all them, and Biden, they're all in on it. They're all in on it. And they basically set up the disaster that is the Ukraine. Now, the Ukraine was supposed to turn into like Syria, but engulf Russia, was supposed to spill into Russia, and then get Russia to roll into Ukraine, go to war with Ukraine, then go through Transnistria, and get onto a war with Poland. But the Russians are too smart to fall for that. And the Russians, again, the position they can take, they can bleed out the Ukraine war for decades to come if they want. It's not really costing them that much. The U.S. sending 300 more troops to Norway. Again, we know about Norway getting to build up all these caves in Norway, getting new tanks and stuff like that. And it seems like there's a lot of stuff going there and being upgraded and stuff like that, but nothing coming out of there. So they sent 150 tanks one year, 200 tanks the next year, 50 tanks the year after, that type of thing. So they got to be getting, those caves got to be getting pretty full. But again, all these other, troops all over the place. The U.S. troops are pretty much everywhere but the States right now. Like that type of thing. There's war everywhere getting ready. Now this one, I've heard from Jill Stein. But basically what she is saying, 2,000 nukes are on a hair trigger right now. And Gorbachev, the previous leader of the Soviet Union, Gorbachev was Soviet Union, not Russian Federation. But anyway, because it was Gorbachev, then Boris Yeltsin, then Putin, right? And then Gorbachev out there, and he's a pretty smart guy. Yes, he was a bit of a Western puppet. There's some evidence of that, but to a degree, he was still pretty pro-Russia. He was still sane to a great degree, and he's also out there saying we are closer to a war than ever before with the United States. So this is coming from Gorbachev, who was still in the Cold War. This is a Cold War president of Russia, and he must be up there. He must be about 90 by now. I don't know how old he is, but he was up there saying, "Yeah, we're close to becoming on the brink of war," that type of thing. So, and he's been saying this now for quite a little while, at least for the last year or so. So these are guys that are in the know. I mean, he might not be a president anymore, but trust me, he's got connections. He knows who to talk to. When guys like this come out and say, yeah, we're close to war, we're close to war. And the thing is that you're hearing it from all the prominent figures, such as Henry Kissinger, George Soros, Zbigniew Brzezinski, Jacob Rothschild, Evelyn Rothschild, David Rockefeller. I don't know if he's still alive or not. I think he's just a human dialysis machine. I don't know what the hell is going on with him. He should have died decades ago, but somehow that evil just doesn't die. But these people are every prominent banker saying it. We're the recipe for war is there. Now the thing is the trump card is the people. If the people reject the war, saying no, we're not going to go to war with Russia. But what the United States is trying to do, again, their government has basically got a death and debt-based economy to deal with. It's a death-based economy, so meaning you either take the petrodollar or you get democracy JDAMs in the name of women and children on your country. Thing is you can't just do that to Russia. You can't just invade Russia like you can Afghanistan or go into Syria because without congressional approval or whatever. You can't just do these things like Libya. You can't have no-fly zones like Libya. Russia can fight back. There are people out there that, but our military is so much better than theirs. You're missing the point. Their military is good enough. They will kill tens of millions of people. Probably 6 out of the 7 billion people on this planet would not survive a conflict between Russia and the United States. And the first question you should ask yourself is, why are we going to war with Russia? We don't need to go to war with Russia. And again, when guys like this come out and say stuff like that, again, it really does reassure it. So Jill Stein saying that you got 2,000 nukes on a hair trigger. What's her sources? I don't know. And with Hillary Clinton's 4 minutes to launch, it really does make you kind of, and with Obama putting more into the nuclear arsenal than ever before in U.S. history, with all other presidents combined, we're ramping up towards it. Oh, it'll never happen, never say never. Every time that gets quoted in history, we never thought that could happen here. This is a nice place. We never thought they would take us to war. But they're trying. They're clearly trying. Trump again, donated, $2.6 million donations, raising over 300, and I think the number, don't quote me on the number, but $380 million for the Republicans. The most in their history. There's a lot of firsts for Donald Trump. Donald Trump has the first endorsement of ICE, the most military generals and staff endorsed, even more than Ron Paul. I think the military soldiers probably support Ron Paul more, but the military brass, I guess because they just realized that Donald Trump is not insane and wanting to go to war with Russia. And you hear it in the military generals right now, particularly Dunsford out there saying, well, a no-fly zone in Syria means a direct war with Russia. You know, I think he understands what that means. You know what I mean? But yeah, $380 million. You know, so Donald Trump, again, how much did Hillary Clinton doesn't even get a tenth of that. She can't even raise a tenth of that, you know what I mean? From, you know, the regular citizenry. She gets all the bankers and everything bailing her, but no. So the 4-minute warning, I think, is the big news. I didn't know it was that quick. I knew it would be quick, but from the order given. That's the thing. What steps will she take to make sure that there is nothing stopping her from launching? That's the part that you need to be really nervous and scared about, because I think it's very clear that this woman she's mentally ill, number one. And number two, she's clearly advocating for war with Russia. She's sitting out there trying to sugarcoat it in the third debate saying, oh, no, we're not just going to go to war and have a no-fly zone without negotiating. The Russians have said, no, you're not going to have a no-fly zone in there. The Russians have a no-fly zone in there. They're bringing in extra radar for their missile systems. They've got the world's best anti-aircraft missile system in there. They've already established a no-fly zone. They've already told the United States that they will meet force with force. They will protect against U.S. mistakes, meaning if they see U.S. aircrafts coming in on their guys, they're going to shoot down the airplanes. They're not going to risk it anymore. So you won't be able to make the claim of a mistake. It's like, well, your guys are going to shoot down our guys. You know, once you're within weapons release of and think about it. Let's say they're firing a Maverick, is it a Maverick? Not the Maverick. Yeah, the Maverick missile, right? I don't know if they still use those or not, or whatever. Okay, if they detect that, okay, this thing launches a missile. Okay, it's launched in our direction. They'll shoot down the missile, but they're going to shoot down the aircraft. They're going to take that as an attack. So that's how crazy this can get very quickly. People, yeah, but if they shoot down an American airplane, that's it. We're going to go to war because we're not going to tolerate that. But you're missing the point. That's what the U.S. wants. That's what the government wants. They want Russia to shoot down airplanes and stuff like that. The Russians will do it. They're going to do it. And they're not going to do it to go to war. They're going to do it to call the bluff. They're going to make sure when they show why they shot down the U.S. aircraft or whatever, that it was... If they do it right, they're going to basically wait till the bombs get released from the F-16s or whatever, or A-10s or whatever's attacking, and say, okay, they dropped the bomb, right on us, we fired the missile in defense. You know, they're going to hail them. They're going to warn them, saying, you're within our missile defense. Please do not fly. This is a no-fly zone. Please back off. Now, obviously, the U.S. pilots, if they have any sense of self-preservation, they're not going to go near those S-300 missile systems. I mean, they'd be retarded to do so. You might be a good pilot, but you're not that good. You're going to be boxed in and engulfed in radar. You know, you're going to be painted by about 40 different radar systems at the same time. And the amount of barrage, the jamming, everything, it's not the airplane to do it. You might get away with it with an AWAC. You might get away with it from like an electronic warfare airplane. You might be able to get in close. You might even get close with a bomber, but you won't get close to those systems with a fighter. Even the Israelis have been chased out of the area several times by the Russians. And that's just with the Su-30s and the other jamming devices they have on the ground. And right now, the Russians have jamming devices on the ground that seem to blind Israeli satellites' radar, U.S. satellites' radar. They can't get around it. The S-300 and S-400 missile systems, the Americans don't know how this system works yet. They haven't turned it on to you know, they can detect it. They know it's there, but then it jams their system right away. They don't know how they don't know how the Russians are doing it. This missile system takes a crew of 3, can be set up within 3 minutes. It can be mobile. There's about, I don't know how many vehicles, depending on what setup of S-300, is about 30 different vehicles. And they can tailor it to shoot down low-flying aircraft. They can tailor it to shoot down higher aircraft. They can take out incoming missiles. It can do a lot of different things. But the thing is it can blind the airplanes that are in the air. You won't know which direction the missile's coming from, that type of thing. So flying into that area... Plus, on top of that, there's going to be probably most likely fighter escort flying above, meaning not only are you going to have to worry about the SAM sites, but you have an Su-30 that you might have to tangle with. And an Su-30, I don't care what American pilots say about it. It's a good airplane, and in the hands of a good pilot, the Su-30 is a very formidable foe. It's very maneuverable. It will keep to the F-15, and it outmaneuvers the F-15. There's no doubt about that at low speed. It has the power to go up high with the F-15. It has the more weapons capability, better range. The jam-proof radars do seem to be a little bit more updated than the F-15. F-15 is a great airplane. The better pilot will win, I get that. But the point is that the F-15 if the other pilot's good, it's whoever makes the mistake first dies. That's the thing. So the F-15 isn't reigning superior over the Su-30, and if there's Su-35s coming in there too, again, these are frontline fighters, Russians. That's their state of the art, and they are state of the art. They are good. They're every bit as good as the F-15. The numbers match. In fact, the economy of the F-15 is not as good as the Su-35 and stuff like that. The Su-35 a little bit bigger, a little more fuel capacity, a little more weapons load, that type of thing. But when it gets into like the speed handling of it, the low speed handling, or when I say low speed handling, I mean like 400 miles an hour and lower to about 200 miles per hour. The Su-30s will fly circles around the F-15. At 400 miles an hour and above, they're going to, because the pilot can only take so much, that the Su-30s and the Su-35s and F-15s are kind of be on equal terms. The F-15 might be slightly faster in full afterburn, but you're not maneuvering in full afterburn. You're getting the hell out of Dodge in full afterburn, or you're trying to catch up to something. That type of thing. So when you're looking at it like this, with an Su-35 or an Su-30 or even an Su-34 flying, Su-34s will probably still be able to take on, even though they're not a frontline fighter or bomber, those pilots do train to dogfight. They train against Su-27s and Su-35s. So those pilots might not be quite as dogfight savvy as an F-15 pilot, the visibility restriction and stuff like that, but those planes do have the power to do that. They do have the maneuverability to do that. And they hold even more weapons load and have even better low speed handling and shorter turning radiuses than the F-15 and the Su-30s. So they're again, and being able to guide. I mean, the thing is these pilots, they're there more as a presence, so that if the coalition forces try to attack the surface-to-air systems, well, the pilots, you'll have to deal with them. The Russian pilots, you'll have to deal with them. If you go after the aircraft, well, then the aircraft can just play cat and mouse until the SAM site. They'll lead you right over a SAM site. And trust me, the Russians aren't going to shoot down their guys. They're going to shoot down you. So that's what the pilots have. And the F-18s and the F-16s are good. The F-16C is an excellent airplane. I think the F-16C probably has a better chance in a dogfight against an Su-30 than the F-15 because of the maneuver. The F-16 is a very maneuverable airplane. The thing about it is it has a few handicaps to the Su-30s, but the big thing about that is that it's the better pilot that wins. So who gets shot down, the F-16 pilot or the Su-30 pilot? The better pilot wins. That's it. It's whoever doesn't. It's not who wins the dogfight. It's who doesn't lose the dogfight. And that's what dogfights aren't won. They're lost. Somebody dies. That said, oh yeah, but the Israelis have the best pilots in the world. Yeah, but they're not invincible. The Russians have very, very good pilots. Their quality of pilots are really good. You can watch the military drills. Watch U.S. military drills. Watch Russian military drills. Watch Chinese military drills. Watch these military drills, from the UK and whatever. Really, to say one group of soldiers is better than the other is really ridiculous. You have a lot of people with a lot of powerful weaponry that are opposing sides. A lot of people are going to die. This battle might be won here. That battle might be won there. Again, as an Abrams tank and a T-90, whoever gets the first shot gets the kill. The T-90 is a little more advanced in some ways in defensive armor with their active-reactive armor and a little more modernized. The Russians have modernized. Some of the Abrams, a lot of them are as modernized. Some of them are being modernized, but like anything, they're getting dated. The Russians have figured out what ammo to use against an Abrams. They know where to hit an Abrams now, that type of thing. That said, a T-90 is not impervious. 2 shots in the same spot, you take out the T-90. Getting that 2 shots, that's the hard part. But the better tank crew will win. The better pilots will win. The better naval captain will win. That said, every time there's going to be a loss. If you take out a T-90, you kill 3 people. You take out an F-15, you kill, depending on the F-15, 2 to 3 people. You take out an Su-30, you kill 2 people. You take out a warship, you kill hundreds of people. You see what I mean? That's what we're talking about. World War II, North Korea type body counts. 5,000 people in a day, Hamburger Hill style. We're just not ready for that. We're just not ready for hundreds of people dying in a day. I think it's Hill 581, the bloody Hamburger Hill. For a hilltop. That many guys died for a hilltop. In the middle of a jungle. For what? What was the strategic value of that thing? Oh, the Viet Cong are at the top. Okay, go around them. Mortar the shitballs at them and go around them. Yeah, but we got to take the hill so we can take the next hill. Oh, it was just the ridiculousness of war. Trench warfare. Let's put 10,000 guys shoulder to shoulder in a trench and put another 10,000 guys on the other side, shoulder to shoulder in a trench. Get them to shoot at each other, and when they're tired of shooting at each other, fix bayonets, go over the top, and see how many men can make it to the machine gun post before they get shot. Okay, none of those guys got shot. Let's fire chemical weapons at each other. Chlorine gas and stuff like that. Let's try that. The trenches are too far. The guys are getting tired. They don't feel like running. Let's just fire canisters of chlorine gas at each other. It's like genocide, all of it. But yeah, I still get the odd comment. People like they don't realize. Okay, we're going to win the war. Well, they're going to. No, here's how we win the war. We don't get into the war. Why would you even want to? It's like some people are like, well, if they're provoking or if they're going to do this, yeah, but they're doing it in a response to the lunacy of the Washington government. It's not the people that want to go to war. It's not the Russian people that want to go to war. It's not the Russian government that seems to want to go to war. They've clearly had many opportunities. It's the U.S. government, not the people, but the government that wants to go to war. Meaning, if we need regime change, we need regime change in Washington. Donald Trump, unfortunately, he's not going to win. And I'm so convinced he's not going to win again. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I will buy $100 worth of canned foods, bring it to the Shepherds of Good Hope in donation in Ottawa there. I'm so convinced Hillary Clinton's going to win. Not because I want her to win, but because the establishment wants her to win. The reason why Hillary Clinton is going to win is the same reason why the economy hasn't collapsed. This is where I just agree with Peter Schiff, Max Kaiser, and a whole bunch of other ones like that, guys like that keep saying, oh, the economy is going to collapse. No, it's not going to collapse. It's not going to collapse till war comes. Because the reason why it hasn't collapsed now is a very simple system. The same reason why Hillary Clinton is going to win the election. It's rigged. It's rigged. Let that sink in. It's rigged. It's orchestrated. The wars are being orchestrated. They're not these aren't, oh, somebody just invaded our border. No, this is, we're provoking somebody to shoot at us. We're provoking the Russians to shoot down airplanes. It might be in somebody else's border. But again, if Russia shoots down a U.S. pilot, which they're probably going to shoot it down, I would predict at least 3 airplanes. Just to get the American people to wake up saying, if it goes any further than this, we're on the brink of war. The Russians are going to call that bluff. I think they first detonate a nuclear warhead. They've been talking about it. I think they're going to detonate a nuclear warhead as a show of force to get the world to notice, because that's something that if the mainstream doesn't talk about Russia lighting off a nuke, then the mainstream media is going to lose every ounce of credibility. They are at the all-time lows. Every one of the major, or even here in Canada, they're talking about how we can tax new things online so that we can fund the public media system again. Because they're losing so much money. Nobody watches them. They don't watch them because they lie, and if they don't lie, they lie by omission. So people don't want that anymore. They just want to know what's going on in the world, and they want the truth. They'll let them make up their own minds. But if you let them make up their own minds, you're going to come to the conclusion that the Anglo-American Empire, with the death and debt-based economy, take our currency, or you get democracy, JDAMs, is going to fail. And that is failing. That's why when people start, there's so many people that were anti-Trump accidentally went and listened to his speeches and saying, okay, I still hate that guy. Even Jill Stein, anytime you hear of a environmentalist party, that type of thing, like a Green Party type of thing, these people are always as leftist as they could possibly get. But she's like, she hates Donald Trump. But even Jill Stein, and I don't know much about her, she does talk about, she's better than the Libertarian guy. The Libertarian guy seems to be way out to lunch. He puts it on pretty thick. But Jill Stein, the little bit that I got from her, she does seem to be like a decent person. Unfortunately, she seems to be, your utopianistic leftist. I think, we can live in this world of no conflict whatsoever. It's just not realistic. Not at this stage. Maybe 1,000 years from now, everybody on the planet could be a libertarian, green person. But not now. We just live in way too dangerous times. And she does, I believe it was her that was going after the Goldman Sachs crowd and stuff like that. So hats off to her for that if she's the one I'm thinking of. If not, disregard what I said. Again, I didn't follow her. But she has been saying stuff like, I don't like Donald Trump. And she pretty much knows she's not going to win the presidency, but she's still running anyway. That shows merit. That's good. But, if she's the one I'm thinking of, she's against the Wall Street bankers, which is good. But she says, the idea of Donald Trump, I don't like the idea of him being president. I will be uncomfortable with that because of, he's a misogynist and xenophobe, homophobe. All that. So she's got her leftist rant there. Okay, fine. But I think she takes it from a genuine point of view, that she doesn't like him because of his personality. She doesn't really like his policies and stuff like that. Fair enough. But then she says, I won't sleep with a Hillary Clinton basically, as a president of the United States, because she'll bring us right to war. And when you get leftists that start talking about war rhetoric, that's usually, especially at that level, when they start to realize that the emperor has no clothes, that, okay, yeah, these are war hawks. These are people that really want us to go to war with Russia. Oh, you settle down. My tummy. Yeah, it's like, ooh, hungry. Yeah, pizza day today, too. And I had wings last night. I keep saying hot wings, but I had wings last night. So I had pizza on Sunday, wings yesterday, and pizza again tonight. Oh, so clever. So clever. Not only am I this handsome, but, just saying. Anyway, I know that was important. I had to share that. So, back to the, topic, whatever. So, anyway, yeah. It shows it for what it is. The system is cracking. It's breaking down. The system is all in for Hillary Clinton. It has to be. I wonder how many reporters are going to lose their jobs. Let's say by accident somehow Trump is able to win. Well, one good thing is if he did win, nothing's going to happen for 4 years because nobody's going to work with him. So that's good. So it'll be a completely lame duck 4 years. It's not that things probably will get a little bit worse just because the economy is going sour, but at least you'll survive it. You'll survive it. You'll survive the depression. You'll survive the Black Lives Matter and stuff like that. He won't get much done if he was able to win. And I believe you'll have a civil race war if Trump were to win, and an economic collapse because they'll let it go on his watch and blame it on him. Oh, it was his bad economic policies. The problem is that would actually work to Trump's advantage because he'll just say, okay, well, we're just not going to bail out the too big to fails. So tens of thousands, maybe a few million people lose their jobs in these Fortune 500 companies, but then he deregulates, doesn't bail out, pulls an Iceland solution, puts the bankers in jail and whatever. Guess what? The economy will start to pick up, just like in Iceland, when they threw their bankers in jail, and then recently they threw a couple more in jail. Now, Iceland didn't throw their bankers in jail for very long, like one guy got like 2.5 years. No, these people, crimes against humanity, people have died because of these people, sinisterly, on purposeful acts that they did of criminality. So in other words, you need to put these people away for crimes against humanity, and acts of terrorism and treason against their own country. 150-year sentence, no possibility of parole. These people are too dangerous to be able to ever have a phone call or the light of day. Give them their day in court, sure, but once you find them guilty, charge them with treason, terrorism, whatever. Make sure that the penalties are stiff enough that these people can never see the light of day, that they can never have a possibility of parole. They spend the rest of their natural life in jail. Maybe even put in a option of, would you want to be spending the rest of your life in jail, or a one-time offer of, we'll let you pick the caliber and we'll put you up against the wall and we'll shoot you. I'd be more than happy, and if they have any decency whatsoever, these world elites, they would opt to be shot because, for them to sit in jail for the rest of their life on the taxpayer's dime is still a bit of a slap in the face. But the idea is that we're saving society from their lunacy. That's what has to happen. Now, I think under Trump, something like that might happen. He would probably bring back the death penalty. I don't know what his stance is on it, but considering his attitude, I would say he probably would, and put treason and terrorism as punishable by death. And why burden the taxpayer anymore? And probably rapists and child molesters would probably end up on there too. So a lot of innocent people will probably end up getting zapped, but a lot of criminals will get zapped. That was the problem with the death penalty in the first place, is you have to make sure, the idea for me is very simple. Give them the trial, give them the retrial to make sure, yes, it's expensive, but the idea is that they never ever get a chance to go out in public again when the next government gets in and says, we're going to give amnesty to the people that were on death row. No. Give them the trial, give them the retrial, make it as tough as possible to sentence people to death. But when you can clearly, like George Soros, his policies, which he does, and by his own, he's talked about destabilizing the Ukraine. He's destroyed economies around the world, which led to mass death and destruction. And these are his purposeful policies. These are not by accident. These are not, I didn't know it was going to have that result. These are results he wanted, openly admitted. Therefore, the man should be charged one charge, crimes against humanity, and charged with terrorism, for crimes against humanity, and treason, sentenced for terrorism and treason against the peoples of the world, resulting in death and destruction. And because he's killed more than, his policies have led to the death of more than 10 people, it should be an automatic death sentence to be carried out within 30 days of being sentenced. I don't believe in lethal injection. It's too humane. They do need to suffer. Electric chair or guillotine or firing squad is the only thing that I think sends a message to these people. Like the French Revolution, I am dignified enough to allow people to choose sword for beheading, not just the peasant guillotine. Why do I say this? Again, make it, and a lot of these people are going to walk free when you're trying to charge them because it will be. I want to uphold rule of law, but the idea is it sets the precedence of no, we won't tolerate this anymore. Particularly crazy people that want, that have 4 minutes to launch a nuke. Now, who gets in front of Hillary Clinton? That's what I want to know. Again, I do know a president can't just order a launching of the nukes. It's not that simple. But considering who Hillary Clinton is, who does she remove so she can just do that on a whim? That's my fear. And that should be your fear too. Donald Trump, I think Donald Trump would probably do the same. Say, well, I'm not going to go around these people. I'm not going to go to the Congress. I'm not going to go to the military generals. I'm going to remove that protocol. But I don't think he's likely to do it. I think he would do it as a bluff. Hillary Clinton will do it because she wants to actually nuke and kill people. That type of thing. Why? The New World Order wants to kill people. They want to maintain humanity under 500 million. Trust me, you're not on that list. I'm not on that list. It's a crazy world we live in. And for the people that don't believe, and again, I do get a lot of naysayers that, Reg, you're just putting out doom porn. Not a lot of naysayers, but, Reg, you're just putting out doom porn. I don't think it's doom porn, and here's why. And this is where you get a problem with some of the prepper community. I wasn't talking about Canadian prepper. No, his video I think was very, very good and everything like that. It just came out, I guess, because we're all kind of like-minded and we kind of come up with the same topic at the same time, that type of thing. But it wasn't him. It was American Homestead Prepper, I think was the guy who said, nuclear wars are going to happen. Don't worry about it. Just keep prepping. But then again, subconsciously, why would you be prepping if you didn't think it was ever going to happen, right? I'm not saying it's going to happen today. I don't know when it's going to happen. All I'm saying is if we look at the dots, I've been covering this since 2000. Yes, I've been covering this for years, and it hasn't happened. And some people lose faith in my channel saying, well, Reg, it hasn't happened, so it's not going to happen. Well, did your house burn down today? So let's get rid of the fire department because the house didn't burn down, so doesn't mean it's ever going to happen. Ask somebody who's had their house burned down. I never thought that was going to happen. It was structure shock. It caught them off guard. I wasn't prepared for that. Ask them if they're about their new house. Oh, I got a fire extinguisher in every room. I got, don't wait till something bad happens to be prepared. Now, the problem with preppers is because preppers are actually the most sane, rational people on average that you find. You can find them. These people, all they talk about is how to be rational about things and how to practically set things up so you're not caught off guard. That type of thing. How to prep. That's what they do. These are rational people. That's a bit of their downfall because they can't accept irrational people. They understand irrational people are out there, but they don't accept that is what's running the system, is irrational people. Hillary Clinton is mentally ill. She's a psycho. She's a sociopath, a psychopath. She's, of all 18 types or 20 types of psychopath, she's probably 17 out of the 18. She's narcissistic. She's genocidal. She's about as death and destruction, Grim Reaper as you can get. George Soros, same thing. Henry Kissinger. This man never met a war he didn't like that he started. You know what I mean? Zbigniew Brzezinski, his grand chessboard, he froths at the mouth like Joe Biden and John McCain and Lindsey Graham. They froth at the mouth at the idea of doing a preemptive nuclear strike on Russia. And they talk about it. These Sheldon Adelson, the so-called great, he's a Zionist neocon, this so-called great conservative, talks about just lighting off nukes in the middle of the Iranian desert just to show that we're serious. Okay. Fair enough. The first time he says it's a joke. After 20 or 30 times, this guy believes what he's saying. Donald Trump, yeah, okay, he said something. Well, why do we have the nukes if we're not going to use them? Well, you're not going to use nukes against ISIS. That was a stupid thing for him to say. So I get it. Trump says stupid things. But if you listen to him, his rhetoric is not to go to war. It would be nice if we could work with Russia. Work together to get rid of ISIS. Could you imagine how pissed off Israel would get if Donald Trump won and America worked side by side with Russia? Even with the climate that we're at. Do you guys remember the movie, showing my age here, Iron Eagle? Do you remember that? With Lou Gossett Jr.? I always liked Lou Gossett Jr. The whole Iron Eagle thing was based upon, this is back when America was still flying F-4 Phantoms too, and F-14s. That type of thing, right? And they did this foreign exchange with Russian pilots. Yes, your machine guns from your aircraft is shot down my airplane and forever changed my comrade to his wheelchair type of thing. That kind of really. And then of course I can't remember the lady pilot, but anyway, good-looking Russian girl, whatever. It was really over the top, thick. Action Jackson kind of Americana. 80s, 90s or 80s action films. Pure bullshit, but pure adrenaline and so enjoyable because it was so bullshit. And they worked together, and I think they were fighting Libyans. Yeah, I think remind me if I'm wrong. But anyway, they go into this big dogfight, and of course, I can't remember the main character's name. He comes in and with his F-14 Tomcat, and it just happens that the Russian pilots were flying these Soviet F-4 Phantoms. Yeah, like the MiG-28s in Top Gun, F-5 MiG-28s in Top Gun. Mind you, the MiG-28s were a good-looking airplane. Black and red star on it. Real, yeah, just those little barrels. If there was an airplane, not to digress, but anyway, if there was an airplane that I ever wanted to joyride in, it's an F-5. I think it's the funnest airplane ever designed, and it's such a good-looking airplane, even though it's dated. But anyway, so you see this kind of attempt at propaganda of Russia and America working together pretty soon after, or I think maybe it was just after, just before 1989, East Bloc stood down. They didn't open fire on the citizens, and they allowed them to tear down the Berlin Wall. Humanity cried and wept together that the Cold War was finally over, and rainbows and puppy dogs everywhere. Nina's 99 red balloons got released, and this time it didn't almost start a World War III. That song was based on something that actually happened, where Russians picked up in East Germany, or the East Germans picked up a radar blip of like a batch of balloons letting go, and it nearly started World War III. Yeah, that's the era I grew up in, and I'm not even the tuck and cover generation, the baby boomers. I'm the Gen X or right after. But my generation was very anti-war, coming off the heels of the Vietnam and stuff like that. So we were already, propagandized to be anti-war, and we went from, instead of anti-Vietnam type of thing, and for me, I thought Vietnam was the last big war that was ever going to happen on the planet. Particularly with the United States. I thought, they're never going to do that again. Thank God it wasn't as bloody as World War II type of thing. And then Desert Storm. I still remember being a kid the night before, coming home from school, everybody, the teacher, she taught us duck and cover the night before Desert Storm, and you could almost see tears in her eyes. She was that convinced, we were all that convinced that Saddam had this incredible military that was going to, we didn't know if he had nukes, he was going to fling nukes at us and chemical weapons. Knowing now, you know what I mean? But they brought up the propaganda, World War III, Saddam's army, there's 15,000 APCs. What they didn't tell you is most of the tanks and stuff that the Americans were going to have to deal with. But what they didn't tell you was that half of them didn't even have engines in them. They were sitting there as gun emplacements. Or, you know what I mean? They were those old Soviet T-55s, hardly anything to really worry about, on this side of the pond. But that was the beginning of the end of peace, really. And, of course, the Russians were kind of off the radar, and again, you saw a few extra, Rocky IV. It was a Rocky III or Rocky IV with Dolph Lundgren playing the Russian there. I think he's Norwegian or something like that, but he played the Russian or Finnish or whatever. Dolph Lundgren, big Thor there. He's I always loved his action movies. They were pretty good. I think he was awesome in the Expendables. But anyway, so Rocky IV, Rocky III, or whatever it was against the Russians, and that. And then, of course, in Canada here, the 1978-79 hockey game there, it was in. So the banter back and forth, stuff like that. So you get stuff like that. So there was the propaganda, Russia versus the West versus Russia, that type of thing. But it started to turn a bit to try to get a little bit of cooperation and stuff like that. And you did see that propaganda turn from the Red Scare to the let's make world peace, because the mad scenario is exactly that. And again, the Cold War won, even though you had war hawks there, they were at least sane. They were ready to respond, but they weren't going to shoot first. Now what you have is complete, utter buffoons and idiots that are full neocon Zionist, all wars for Israel, all wars are bankers' wars for the Odin Greater Israel Project, the petrodollar, Rockefeller, Rothschild banking and oil systems around the world, and people are seeing it. But because all that stuff is failing, because it was never designed to be sustainable anyway, people are now seeing that Russia, Russia's under your pillow. Russia's basically, it's the Red Scare again. And the Russians this time, they know that the difference is that this time America is in the biggest recession of its life, soon to be a depression. You have 94 to 96 million people out of work. This is the stats in the States, right? It's ridiculous. They know that when all else fails, like Joe Salente says, they take you to war. And the Russians know that the Americans are looking for an excuse to force Russia into shooting at them. So we need another Iron Eagle movie to put propaganda in that. The Russians aren't so bad. Maybe we can cooperate. But on the world stage, Russia Could you imagine F-15 pilots and Su-30 pilots coming in on an air attack on ISIS together, coordinated? It wouldn't matter if it was Russia and Britain. It wouldn't matter if it was Russia and France or Germany or Belgium or whoever is, or even with Canada doing a joint exercise. It has to be Russia and the United States, the two top dogs on the planet. Even the United States and China doesn't matter as much as Russia and the United States. If we had a Donald Trump win and he was to work with Russia, the signal that sends around the world is better than Iron Eagle 2, 3, 4, whatever. That's the ultimate, okay, we have our differences, but maybe we can just possibly work this out. Because if we don't, this can go awry within 4 minutes. So if you like this kind of content, please consider making a donation to the channel. Links down below. Thank you so much to everybody who has. Next to that, rate, subscribe, share, comment, like. Be true to yourself, be true to others, always do the right thing, and have yourselves a great day. G'day and welcome. So, World War III update, brought to you by Gazoo. You going to give the World War III update, Gazoo? Eh? You going to do the... No, he's going to say, look at my butt. Look at my butt. Eh? All right, so I don't have very much for you today. Just got a Gazoo here. Got some scars from fighting. Yeah, not supposed to be fighting. Yeah, you licked my shirt. Ew, that's gross. Cat tongues are so gross. All right, so watch your head. Watch your head. Look out. I'm going to smash you. Look out. Watch your head. All right, so let's get into this. Get my papers. Very rainy, blustery day today. Okay, so I guess I'll start off with what's going on at the FBI right now. Right now, they're kind of in a bit of a revolt, really trying to go after Comey or whatever, the director, the one that basically let criminal Hillary Clinton walk free, basically. Saying that, well, yes, she did wrongdoing, but it wasn't really her fault, whatever. Again, go steal a chocolate bar, and you spend like 5 years in jail for stealing a chocolate bar. So that's pretty much, again, on the hellhound front, I guess you'd call it. That's starting to brew the first wave of hellhounds of people that they're sick and tired. They made the FBI a laughing stock, so they're now starting to turn on their own system. And the hellhounds will always go after the system. And you're seeing FBI agents that want it. So watch for those FBI agents dropping dead, because, of course, for me, it's for him to run defense for Hillary Clinton, it's because they have something on him. So a lot of these bureaucrats, they don't get into power unless you can manipulate them, right? So anyway, that's just something to keep in mind. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. That said, if you haven't caught this one, over there in the Philippines, this guy Duterte, Rodrigo Duterte there, he's quite the character. He's a bit of a dictator. He's killed something like 3,000 drug cartels by now. Again, what classifies as a drug cartel, I don't know. Is it just some guy shooting up heroin on the street? I don't know. Hey, you're a drug cartel. Put him against the wall, shoot him. That type of thing. Basically a zero tolerance stance there. And of course, there's not much. I think what's happening is because the Philippines, the drug trade is really, around the world, is facilitated big time by the CIA and stuff like that. It funds a lot of projects. And I think that's who he's probably killing, is like U.S. agents and handlers and the manufacturing of it. So that's the United States is not going to be happy with that. But he did the most insane thing a man could possibly do. He has cojones the size of elephants. I got to say this, but basically, the Philippines is just ditched the United States. He finally came out and said it in a press conference. He's going to be basically working with China and Russia, and he's suspending basically ties with the United States. How much, I don't know. How fast, I don't know. But it's there. And it's very clearly he's anti-U.S. That type of thing. So Philippines is about to get us probably a dose of democracy, JDAMs, and some regime change in the name of women and children and democracy there. So that is a big player in the South China Sea, because what's going to happen there is if a war breaks out, there's now an ally that might side or work with or stay neutral with China. So with that said, that makes it harder to go to war. Very hard to go. I think the Philippines just doesn't want war. I think that's just self-preservation kicking in. They're not stupid. The guy's clearly not stupid. He's mouthy, but he's not. I like the guy, actually. Not that I'd ever want to live under his rule, but like as a character, it's kind of like, oh my God, he's like Bizarro World. But he says the darndest things, right? He curses Obama up and down like crazy. the colorful character that he is. But the big one is that he's basically saying that no, we're done after that U.S. military drill. We're done. We don't want F-16s. We don't want to provoke China. That's what he's basically saying. Is we don't want to go to a war with China. He's talking about cooperation with China. Will we see that? It's hard to say. I do believe there will be a color revolution. The United States will definitely. You can already see some light propaganda of getting ready for regime change in the Philippines. So like Venezuela, they'll destabilize the Philippines. So they're about to get a really shit kicking from the U.S. It's all going to be covert stuff like normal, but you get the idea. But that said, if they start working with China, once you get the U.S. state actors out of there, and this guy, I mean, if there's a George Soros group there, they're going to get kicked out or shot. I think you'll probably just shoot them. They won't put up with anything. Put up with that. Which, in a way, like if you want to save your country, you have to get rid of these systems. It's not a matter of political banter. You have to just expel them from your country. It's kind of like how the Russians still have a arrest warrant for Rothschilds and George Soros and stuff like that. But until those people step into the country, you don't get them. That said, the systems, Russia basically banned George Soros NGO groups in there. That's why they can't get the color revolutions going over as easy as they did in Ukraine and stuff like that. Now, this is something that's kind of interesting. Somebody else pulled this up, and then the girl made a really good point on this. She goes, Hillary Clinton, okay, again, these world elites, they're so psychopathic, they don't even realize what they say half the time, and they don't even realize when they're admitting criminality and stuff like that. Or, more importantly, they don't even realize when they're basically showing their hand to the world and putting national security pretty much at risk. Now, this, you might take something out of it, you might not. But anyway, if this doesn't make you sleep uneasy at night, I don't know what will. But during the debate, I don't know if anybody caught it, and I caught it too, was Hillary Clinton was talking about the nuclear launch codes and that it takes 4 minutes from the call to launch the nukes. 4 minutes. So nuclear war can start within 4 minutes. The 4-minute warning. Well, there is no warning. 4 minutes to nuclear war. That's pretty much it. Like you can't make it any simpler than that. So that means when she's president, I think it's pretty much a done deal. It's just the indications are they're looking ways to steal the votes, to manipulate the votes. The media's on her side. The banks are definitely on her side. That's what it's all really for. All that stuff. But 4 minutes. She could have us into a thermonuclear war in 4 minutes. Now, that's any president. Now, that said, what's the checks and balances between Clinton and that 4 minutes? That's what terrifies me. When she gets in power, trust me, there will be a military purge like you will not believe. Any general that was right-wing at all, or maybe not right-wing, but constitutionalist, or loved the country is gone. She needs yes men there, and women. But the thing is that, nobody's going to stand in her way. Nobody. So it means she is basically going to be untethered on the nuclear button. She is going to be at her whim of her choosing to launch nukes. I have a feeling within 3 years Hillary Clinton will launch nukes. Within 3 years. If she can make it that far. I think she might get taken out before that. But it's hard to say. It depends on what happens in the States. You will have a civil race war in the States. You will have probably a military coup by 2017 when Hillary Clinton wins. So somewhere in 2017, she could be taken out by military. I think that comes on the backs of probably a military purge, I would imagine. And then, of course, just a